Welcome to the Relationship Series podcast. My name is unconditional, and each episode I'll be speaking to a different state of mind expert on the subject of relationships. Enjoy. Welcome to episode 26 of the Relationship Series. This week I'm joined by Gabriela Maldonado-Montano. I'm very excited to have her on board. She is the co-founder of True Change Consultants, which is a business coaching firm, but she's worked in a variety of different fields, worked with businesses, worked with children, worked with incarcerated youths, exec teams, you name it. She's got a wide kind of range of experiences, and she's been a state of mind expert since 1996. So, nearly a couple of decades of experience behind her. And she's bilingual. She's born in Mexico and resides in America. So welcome, Gabriela. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Ankush. Nice to be here.
Gabriela and I met about, I think it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago, virtually via Skype. And I have spoken to a lot of state of mind experts, but I think I had more fun on that call and was laughing more than I've done in a very long time. So I think this is going to be a very fun interview, and I'm looking forward to hopefully having more of that energy on this call too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because remember, if it's not fun, Ankush, I don't do it. Right? That's the rule.
We'll do our best to make it a fun interview then. So I know a bit more about your background, but just for our listeners, would you just mind telling them a little bit of your story, how you came across the principles behind State of Mind in '96, what your kind of journey's been a little bit, and how is it that you've seemed to get involved in so many different areas, which on the surface looks so different, from business to incarcerated youths. But how you've kind of gone about that.
Well, I was really lucky. So I think it was my junior year in college, in university, and I was sent to a training, and I just didn't know what I was getting into. There were a few people in our agency that got to go, and the timing was perfect because actually I was going through a divorce. And I was feeling pretty crappy. Actually, I was feeling like I was breaking, really. And because I worked in a nonprofit counseling agency, everyone around me told me that this feeling of distress was going to last at least a couple of years. And I just thought, oh, you got to be kidding me. I don't think I could do it, right? So anyway, I go to this training, and I hear Dr. Roger Mills, who has passed since, and it's Amy Mills' father. I hear him say, it doesn't matter what you've gone through. You are intact, and you are whole, and you are complete. And as I heard that, Ankush, it was like a little bell inside my soul woke up. And I remembered this to be true. I knew this in my soul because I have gone as a child through many really intense circumstances. So as I hear this little bell of wisdom waking me up inside of myself, I just felt relieved. Immediately, I just felt like this is true. And so it was a powerful experience for me. And at the time, I was working at a school doing prevention work for the nonprofit that I was working with. And I just went back the next day and started talking to kids about it. And it was, in our prior conversation, I told you that it was remarkable in hindsight to see me the first day physically, the way that I was dressed, the way that I felt. And then the second day, after I heard that, it was just a complete, like 180 degrees difference.
So could you describe for us, the people that are listening, what was the change? So how did you dress before, and then what did you dress differently? What was the difference?
Oh, my goodness. The first day, I just remember this. I was wearing tennis shoes and sweats, like athletic pants, like you go running, and I don't even think I was wearing makeup, which is not like me, because I like to dress up. And sweatshirt and just kind of grayish. My outfit was gray, I remember, and my energy was low. I felt tired. And then the next day, I was just wearing, a suit, and I did my hair, but, high heels and the whole thing. But what's important about your question really is not so much the difference in change as far as the way that I was dressed, even though it was dramatic. It's that the way that I was dressed really was a reflection of how I was feeling at the moment. I was just so in so much pain the first day that I went to the training. And the second day, I was just relieved. It's almost like I went back to myself, and that you could see visually outside. So, it was just really, in speaking with you, I just realized how instantaneous that change was for me, and how relieved I was that I didn't have to feel like that for 2 days. It wasn't court mandated. It wasn't a must that I really, in the midst of going through a divorce, could feel well and could feel relief, and that I could feel at peace. So, at a personal level, I was very grateful. The second part of your question is how come I've worked with so many different kinds of people, and I was just, again, very blessed, very lucky. Soon after the training, I was hired by the Department of Alcohol and Drug Services in Santa Clara County here in California, which is located right smack in the middle of the Silicon Valley. And the director at the time, Robert Gardner, opened up a department just to teach this understanding that we're going to be talking to people about. And so my job was to go into as many different environments and share this with people. So every year for 10 years, at the beginning of the year, we came up with different projects. And the projects included working at school with kids and teachers and counselors and principals, and in jails with adults and youth, an executive team, social workers. And all along, actually, I have been doing consulting work. So, I've had the fortune of working with Jack Pransky and Amy, and gone to Tikkun, and, just really gone to Argentina to work with some colleagues, Robert Sharbet and Ken Manning, and, oh my goodness, I'm forgetting her name. How can I forget her name? Well, it'll come back to me. And gone to Mexico too, and work with a company that was an agricultural company, and work with one of the executives there. So I just been really lucky, really blessed. I don't know what you want to call it. And I've had the opportunity to just work with a variety of people. The reason why I can work with a variety of people, even though it may seem very different groups of people, is because beyond their differences, really, each one of these people is just a human being, right? And so if you understand at the very fundamental level, at a very basic level, how human beings function, that is an understanding that is universal and transcends cultures and genders and countries. And people get a sense of the truth. And so that's how I've been able to work with just a variety of people.
Yeah, you're reminding me that, there are a lot of stuff that's written, a lot of stuff out there that's written and talked about, and even kind of in humor, we really focus on the differences between people. And what I was reminded of that was that, and the work you do, the work I do, and many of the people that we've had, everyone that I've had on this series really focuses on what's the same between people, as opposed to what is the difference. And from that sameness is what enables better communication, better relationships, deeper connections, as opposed to trying to do that from a place of people are different, people aren't the same, people are bad or good, better or worse, and on a various sliding scales.
Yeah, from Mars or Venus, right? I don't know if that was popular all around the world, but there was a book here in the States that was very popular. I think it's Men Are from Women, Men Are from Mars,
Women
and
Are from Venus.
Venus, right? And like you said, it's interesting because as soon as you stand on that platform of difference, it creates a distance, right? Like there's something different about you. Which for me, it feels like we're put now on opposite directions. And as you and I know, when you understand the very fundamental functioning of a human being, it just creates an understanding that at the most basic level, we all function the same way. And a result of that is an immediate alignment and sense of connection to the person that you're around.
Yeah. So one of the things that I personally really enjoy in doing these interviews is listening to the stories that our interviewers tell us. And we've had some really powerful stories in the past and stories that have been shared. And I know when I spoke to you last time, you told me a fantastic story about how you met your husband. And because this is a relationship podcast, I'd love to get that down. And tell as much of it as you like, and self-censor, but hopefully not too much. But yeah, I just thought it was a really fantastic kind of live example of what we're talking about and how that resulted in you meeting your now husband.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was divorced there, right? Like when I learned the principles, and then when I was working for the county of Santa Clara, one of the projects that we did was a community project in a part of the city that needed a lot of support. And so I was there to do classes weekly for a few years. And my lovely husband, Will, was working in that part of the city, and he was employed by the San Jose Police Department. So just to put it into context, I, at that time, used to work in jails, right? And I used to work with kids that were in gangs and adults that were struggling, which were the people that Will was actually arresting, right? I mean, we didn't know this at the time, but professionally, we came from different ends. And politically, we come from different ends, too. And some of our belief systems are really coming from different perspectives. But the very first day that I met him, he came with a few of his peeps, his officers. And I remember as soon as he walked into the door, thinking, oh my God, who's this guy? He's full of himself.
So it wasn't a good first impression?
No, it was, yes, thank you. No, it was kind of like, ugh, I've told this story in front of him too, I just really thought he was very cocky and very, he says self-assured, and I just defer in my opinion. But anyway, so he comes and sits next to me, and the whole time I'm just really not enjoying his company at all. And in conversation in that meeting, he asked me to go and do a class at the college that he was teaching. I think it was a drug class or administrative justice or something. And this is part of what I did for my job, so I said yes. So he said to me, maybe it would be good if we had lunch before the class. So unbeknownst to me, he was actually trying to date me. And I just thought that he was really asking me to, do something professional here. Anyway, we meet for lunch. He finds out that at the time, actually, I was ending up a relationship. And honestly, if I didn't like him the first time, after the lunch, I liked him less. And then after the class, I liked him even less, right? So, he's like, well, maybe I'll call you later. And I was like, well, yeah, okay. And then we just didn't talk. I didn't think about him. It was not a good impression, as you said, first impression. And then 6 months later, I end up parking in a handicapped area, and he actually sends one of his officers to give me a ticket. It was $280 in 2003, which was a lot of money.
And just to be clear, before we get a lot of abuse for you for parking in a handicapped space, you did actually have permission to park there,
yes,
right? And you left enough room for people to go past.
Yes. Okay, yes. Let me put this into context. Good question. I am not a thoughtful. I wasn't thoughtless about that. So what happened is that I was in the class. I was about to teach the class. I got there to the apartment complex. There was no parking. It was late. It was not the safest neighborhood. And I asked the manager of the apartment complex where I was teaching, where should I park? And he said, well, just park to the left of the ramp. Make sure there's plenty of space for the wheelchairs, etc. So there I was. So anyway, I get this ticket. I go back to the police station and I asked them why they gave me the ticket. And they said, well, isn't it obvious, right? I mean, you were parked on the handicap. I end up talking to Will, and he ends up asking me, how am I doing? And he told me never to park there again. I had a conversation and told him all my reasons. He took pity on me and said, okay, fine, we'll take it away, but this will be the last time and never do it. Okay. And then at the end of the conversation, I told him that I was no longer with the person that I was dating at the time that we first met. And he actually asked me out that same
sentence, the next sentence.
Same first conversation, right? Like literally, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry, right? What are you doing Sunday?
Without skipping a beat.
No, without skipping a beat. And without skipping a beat, I said, yes, let's go.
So what? So I'm interested. So what was it? What was it that made you say yes? So you've met this guy. You've not got a good first impression of him. That impression got worse and worse. He's ended up giving you a ticket.
Yes.
And so what was it that made you say yes?
That is a great question. Well, first off, my state of mind had changed completely, right? At first, when I met him, I was in a relationship, and although it was ending, I was in a relationship. This time around, I was just dating. I was dating, right? So I had opened up a little bit, a lot. And when we were having the conversation and he was talking to me about the ticket, you know what happened is, in that moment, the second conversation, I completely forgot about my opinion, my first opinion about him. Actually, that's what happened. Because obviously, if I would have held that first opinion, I would have never said yes, right?
Yeah.
And throughout our relationship, one of the things that I've noticed has helped us a lot is that we often give each other a new chance. It's just very common for us to, if we get into a little tiff or into an argument, it's very, very common for us to offer the opportunity to start fresh. And I find that to be extremely helpful. Not that we don't have memories or we don't, think about what we did last week, but overall, there's always an invitation to show up in a fresh new way. So that's what happened, luckily for me, right? Fortunately for me, because it's turned out to be such a beautiful relationship and fun. And, the other thing that happened when you and I were talking is that I was sharing with you that at that time I was not trying to have a relationship. I just wanted to have fun and get to meet people, and I told him that. I said, I'm dating and I don't want a serious relationship. So I think because I was not looking for something serious, it opened up the feel for enjoying whatever we did without having to make things happen in a certain way. So I would highly recommend that to people in any relationship. Just to if people are trying to start a relationship, it's so nice to feel that freedom of being with another human being without any pressure.
So you've now got this guy that you're dating, and you're very very different political backgrounds, different views on the world, different belief systems. It kind of throws the idea of compatibility out the window, because I think you said to me as well that if you'd picked your ideal partner, or even a partner, and written them down on a piece of paper, it wouldn't have been like your husband.
No, by description. No. Actually, I was dating another guy at the same time that fit my description. And it was a terrible experience, actually. It was a terrible experience. There were two things that made it terrible. One of them is that I was really attached to dating him. And the other thing is that I just noticed that even though on paper, like, he fit the bill, right? He had all the rest of it. There was really not a sense of flowing. There was really not it was just complicated. And with Will, even though, today we're very different, he'll say things and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe you just said that. I mean, really, just yesterday, he'll say that. What I've learned to understand is that we can connect with people at different levels, right? I can connect with people's opinions, people's likes, people's politics. And that works really well if those opinions and views and politics are similar to yours. But when those opinions and views and politics, etc., are different, what tends to happen if you're connecting at that level is that there is an immediate clash. And the truth, Ankush, is that there is not another human being on the earth that would think exactly like me in every single issue, right? We all have different opinions. And I think that's when people actually have relationship problems, right? When you're trying to connect to a human being at your opinion level or your belief system level. Will and I have a connection that transcends that and transcends what I call the surface of a human being. It transcends all the likes, dislikes, and preferences. And we actually have a connection that is at the deeper level, and really understanding that we're both human beings trying to have a good life, a loving life, a nice marriage, and that we're doing the best we can, and that some of our opinions are very different from each other. And, just sort of to go back to the beginning of when we met, our friends are very different. So my friends are different from his friends. They have very different opinions. And my friends were giving me a hard time because I was dating a cop that was, a Republican that did the job that he did. And I just heard them be very judgmental towards him. And then he would share comments about the kinds of comments that his friends were making to him. Like, how can you go out with her? She's so liberal. And I'm not even that liberal, but, she does this. I mean, do you realize that she actually works with the people that we arrest? And she's trying to help them, right? So it's almost like both of our friends were very judgmental and couldn't see that we were both people trying to have just a very nice life. But fortunately, Will and I So that.
So, I mean, it's a great story, and I mean, there are so many things going through my head, and one of the things I wanted to ask you is, has that now changed you? Because you obviously had your views and opinions, and still do, and have your belief system, which is different to your husband's.
Mm-hmm.
But through being, I guess, open-minded, being less judgmental, giving him a chance, and now end up marrying this guy, has that made you more open-minded, even more so, or are you guys still very much firmly in your, oh well, this is what I believe, that's what he believes, and that's it, and you guys just don't discuss that, or are you able even to have those conversations and be respectful of each other's different points of view, and even open to changing your points of view?
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you, everything, all of what you've described happened, and probably will continue to happen. One of the things that happened is that I had a very judgmental opinion about police officers, because I was, like you said, I was born and raised in Mexico, and in Mexico, police officers are part of the problem in many cases, with crimes, etc., right? So I didn't know that I was very judgmental to police officers. And in being with Will, I realized, wait, police officers are people. They're people too, right? And in listening to him, I realized, he just really wants to protect people that are suffering. And in having conversations with him, I just realized the beauty of his intention. And it's the same as mine. It's just that he goes at it in a different way. So I've just actually become to be grateful for the work that he did, and the weekends that he didn't spend at home, and the 24 hours a day shifts that he worked, right? And the impact in his body. So really what's happened is that there's a deep, deep appreciation for his commitment to humanity. And I would have gone about it differently, and I do. But I just have an appreciation for him as a human being, and that makes me feel closer, and it allows me to listen deeply, right? If I had to guess, I would tell you that that's probably the same thing that's happened to him, right? We've just had this beautiful opportunity to look into each other's world and appreciate the effort that we're trying to make to help our fellow humans.
It's very touching, and it reminds me of something that I said to a client recently, and it just kind of came out of nowhere, which is most of us end up hanging out with people that are the same as us, and spending time with people who have similar belief systems to us, similar views to us, people that agree with us for obvious reasons. And yet it's often the people, and I know this is true for me, it's often the people that are very different to us, that we do disagree with, that we are completely different ends of the political spectrum or have completely different belief systems, that give us an opportunity to learn the most about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of really heard that in your story. And what occurred to me was how incredible, because if more of us took on board that kind of view and were more open to meeting people that were so different to us, whether in a romantic sense or in our friendships or anything else, then it would just make the world a much better place and have far less conflict, whether in our family, in our neighborhood, in our state, in our country, or in international relations. And we can see evidence of that every single day in the news about how people do concentrate, going back to what we're saying, on the differences, as opposed to, like you said, seeing that people are just people, and they're trying to do the best that they can do. And that doesn't mean we need to agree with them, but seeing that that's the one thing that we've got in common, and approaching any relationship from that point of view, you know, is going to lead to a better outcome at the end of the day for both parties.
Yes, it's just that, yeah, absolutely, you know, absolutely. It's just that I think most of us get stuck at that opinion level, you know, or at the political view level, or at the like and dislike level, because it's what's visible, right? It's what we can see, it's what we can observe, it's the comments that we can hear. And that's why I think it's been so helpful to really understand and see behind how human beings function. When you get to see like behind the curtain, when you understand that there is a core of our humanity that functions and it operates exactly the same way. When you understand that, and when you understand that human beings do what they do because at the moment it seems like the thing to do, even though a second later they may regret it. It just allows for the kinds of connections that you're talking about. You know, I have worked with people that have killed people. I have worked with people that have molested children. I have worked with people that are bullies. I have worked with people that have made decisions for a company that were not the best decisions and abusive. And when you first are confronted with that, it's easy to get lost in opinion. Now, I'm not saying that it's okay to kill people, and I'm not saying that it's okay to abuse children, and I'm not saying that it's okay to hurt other human beings, right? That's not what I'm saying. But when you understand how powerful the role of thought is, and that people have this capacity to think that they don't understand very well, and that sometimes they feel compelled to do what they're thinking, and then later on they regret it. When you understand all of that, it allows you to see beyond it and actually have a conversation that can actually shift the person and ultimately allow them to have a healthier behavior. So, you know, I mean, I have done things that I wish I would have not done. I have had moments in my life where I'm like, oh my God, I just can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that. And I don't mean it like in a good way. I mean, just in the worst possible way, if possible, right? And I have really reflected on that. I have done the worst that I've done when the quality of my thinking is at its lowest and where I just felt compelled to do it. And a second later, sometimes, I realized what happened. It's like I jumped to action prior to taking a moment back. And I think in relationships, Ankush, we do this. We do this because we're fueled by intense emotion, and we don't understand the role of emotion either, right? So, I mean, I have said things that I just wish, you know, I could have grabbed them as they were leaving my mouth and put them back, right? And then it's too late. It's heard. And my husband has too. You know, he has said things that I'm like, I can't believe you just said that, right? And sometimes I get really, really hurt. And then some time after, it all kind of comes in the context of, yes, as human beings, we can say some really mean things and do really mean things when we feel compelled in the moment. So in relationship, it just creates such a beautiful space for both partners, you know. And this is true also of my brother. You know, my brother's also a police officer. He also is trained to do all kinds of things that I don't know, well, I wouldn't want to be trained, right? And his behavior, as you can imagine, is different than mine at times. And I just remember in the back of my mind, he really is doing what seems logical for him to do at this moment. And what that does is that it really creates a connection with my brother that allows me to have conversations that bring us closer together, which is ultimately what I want in my life, right? I just want to have a sense of connection and companionship with the people that I love.
So how long have you and Will been married now?
Well, this lucky man has been with me since 2003, and we get married in 2006. And, I hate to say this to you, but I mean, honestly, it just feels to me like we're on a honeymoon. We are playful with each other. We are kind with each other. He's very supportive. We have fun. We get into arguments too.
and that's what I wanted to get to, because people might be listening to this and think, oh well, Gabriela's just one of the lucky people. She's just been lucky. And one thing that I found throughout this series is every single person that I've interviewed, they seem to be lucky in relationships, and it doesn't seem to be a coincidence to me, looking at it from people that are teachers of this understanding of these principles behind state of mind, that they seem to have great relationships, they seem to have great marriages. So do you share that view, or do you think you're just lucky?
Well, absolutely, right? When you understand how something works, when you understand how the human system works, you're just able to let the benefits come to the table. So I function exactly the same way that any other human being, but I understand certain things about people, and it's very helpful to me, I have a very strong opinions about certain things, but I understand that when I feel very intense about something, when I feel very attached to something, when I feel very reactive to something, it's not the best. I'm just not at my best, right? I'm just not. And I'll tell you, it was so funny because just this weekend we had a 4th of July party, and Will said something, and it just pissed me off so much. It pissed me off, right? So I ended up doing something else. Like when you just want to spew something back, right? It's just like, oh, come on, put your boxing gloves. I'm ready to go, right? I'm ready to go from the shoulder, right? And there was another opportunity for me to be a smart ass with him back, right? And I tell you, it was in the tip of my tongue, the comment. It was just like, in my tongue and out of my mouth, like just right there. And I started saying something, and he turned around and looked at me. He goes, "Oh, honey, what did you say?" And in that moment, there was another little space, because we were having a great time. And I'm like, wow. I can say it, and I can also be quiet, right? So I just noticed these moments. I notice when I'm reactive. I notice when he's reactive. And that's just very helpful. Understanding how the human system works is helpful. And one of the results is that it allows you to have gentler, kinder, better, funner relationships.
And do you believe those are open to everyone? Anyone that's listening to this could have, an equally great relationship?
I think anyone that understands how the human system works will benefit from the relationships. And one of the things that you said just a few minutes ago is that the people that you've been interviewing, they all have been sharing their marriages. Now, I don't know exactly what they've been sharing, but I'll tell you, I do not have the perfect marriage. I mean, things come up all the time, We invested in an apartment and we lost a lot of money. My husband had to have open heart surgery. My brother got deployed. I mean, their life is a contact sport, right? So it's going to come. It's not a perfect life. But what happens is I just have a sense of ease. I know that anything that comes my way, I will be able to navigate through it.
Yeah.
And so I just think everyone would benefit from understanding how they function as a human being at the most foundational level.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And I'll quickly share an embarrassing story. So last night I was on a kind of client coaching online course thing that I'm doing with a number of guys, and I get off the call and I'm like, oh, where's my wallet? I can't find my wallet. And I'd been a little bit naughty earlier in the day and got some junk food from a place when I was driving back home, and I thought, oh no, I've left my wallet there. It's fallen out of my pocket, and the jeans that I was wearing have the pockets on. They're a bit shallower randomly, and my wallet does fall out of them. And I thought, oh, I've lost my wallet. And it's that kind of place with heavy traffic and a lot of people there. I'm never going to get it back, and I've lost all my cards and everything else. So I'm looking around the house and I'm like, no, it's there, I've lost it. And then I drive back there in a bit of a panic, and part of me is going, you know what, it's going to be okay. Like, what's the worst case? You got to cancel some cards, you lose a bit of money, fine, even your driving license is in there, you can cancel it and get a new one. You can handle this. And on the surface level there was this panic, and I got there and they said no one's handed in the wallet. And I was like, oh great, people no good nowadays, no one helps each other out, all of this stuff. And something just spoke to me about, like, just slow down. Being aware of what I teach. It was like, take your own medicine. And as I was driving back and I slowed down, and I kind of knew this before, but I wasn't listening to this. And there was almost like a little voice telling me, you haven't lost your wallet. Mm. And as I drove back, I just knew more and more, as I stopped panicking, I was like, you haven't lost your wallet, it's at home. And I'm driving back and I'm cancelling the card, and my mom rings me, and the wallet had bounced off the floor into my wardrobe right at the back where I wouldn't have seen it, in kind of like this freak thing. And the weird thing is, like, this is almost freaky, I knew as I was driving back it was in my room. I didn't know where, but I knew it was in my room, and I would have found it. And it kind of is just another example of stuff happens in life, and we can either freak out and like have this huge panic, and I would have cancelled all of my cards, I wouldn't have looked in there, I would have found it 2 days later, right, after I've created all of this drama and this mess. But slowing down a little bit for me, being aware that our feelings aren't an indication of how well or bad life is going. It's just an indication of our thinking, is really, really helpful to handle life with a bit more ease. Mm-hmm. And I lose sight of it.
I think what you're describing is really, and I wanted to make this point. So you and I work with people in a way that we explain to them how every single human being on earth functions. Right? It's just the way it works. We don't teach people, we don't share with people how to do their own lives. We're just saying, look, this is how it works. So what we know is, as human beings, we have the capacity to freak out. We have the capacity to stay calm. We have the capacity to stay neutral. We have the capacity to be dramatic. I mean, we can react and act in all different kinds of ways, right? But it seems to be, for all of us humans, that there is a deep source of wisdom inside of us that is there to help us out. And what happens often, as you were saying, is that when the mind is really loud and really panicky and really dramatic, it's very difficult to hear those bubbles of wisdom. And I think if we reflect, we all have had moments where we kind of had a sense, we had a sense, and then we get caught up with the drama in our own minds. So I just wanted to say, Ankush, that what you and I share with people is something that people are already doing. It would be like going to a class to understand the wind if you wanted to sail, right? If you wanted to sail and you go and take a sailing class, the wind is not going to change for you. The wind is going to be what the wind is. But you will understand how to benefit from how the wind works so you can sail wherever it is you want to. And, in my relationships and in my marriage in particular, the benefit of understanding has been joy and has been ease and has been moments of quiet when I want to spit something out, right? Or really just vomit something over my husband. It's like, oh, wait, it's not mandatory. This is not mandatory. So there's a great sense of possibility. Actually, there's a great sense of possibility, and there's also a great sense of release, and there's a great sense to experience a relationship in a completely different way that you have not even imagined you could.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that's a great place. We've gone massively over time, but I think that's a great place for us to leave it there. And if people are listening to this and they've liked what they've heard and they want to get to know you better, they want to find out a bit more about you, what's the best way for them to do that?
You can reach me at www.truechangeconsultants.com, or they can contact you and you can send me a little text. And, and then I just wanted to say that in November, I don't know if you said it or not, but in November, there's going to be a Viva conference in the south of Spain. And it's going to be actually a very relaxed conference. There's going to be flamenco dancers and lots of food and just a very relaxed time. And then we're also going to talk about how we function as human beings. So if you want to take a vacation in the middle of November, you're welcome to come and join us. I think it's November 14th through the 17th, I think. But for more information, they can reach out to you.
Fantastic. And I'll put all the links online with the interview information. And for people who want to contact me, they can do so via my website, which is uncushjane.co.uk, via Facebook, which is facebook.com/UncushJane Ltd, or on Twitter, which is @UncushKJane. Thanks a lot, Gabriela. It's been an absolute pleasure. Really enjoyed it. And I'll speak to the listeners next time. This was the Relationship Series podcast. If you like this episode, please share it and leave us your feedback online. Thanks for listening.